All right, so first thing I like to do when I'm looking at the bill is I look at the amount due. We covered that yesterday, but I also look at when it's due. This bill is obviously an older example, but if a customer hands you a bill and they give you a July bill in November, that's a little too old. So you're gonna wanna ask for a more recent bill. But again, the amount due, 176. Now, considering this is in July, that's really not that bad. June, July, August, this is when we're looking at our more expensive bills. And then you've got December, January, and February. Those are the more expensive bills in the wintertime. So nothing worth really looking at yet. We scroll down a little bit. This is a TXU bill. Account summary, previous balance, 0. So how is it possible that the last month's bill was $0? How could that be? No. They either just switched or they just moved in. Well done. Because every bill has some kind of amount, right? So the previous amount could be 100 and then their payment was 100. If they didn't pay all of it, then the balance forward is added where you see balance forward. Okay, but in this scenario, they just moved in. So we can tell they just moved in by looking at the usage chart, but we're not there yet.
They paid a $70 deposit.
Yep, so that's next. So incoming credit card deposit applied. Let's see, $140 deposit. So typically the way some deposits work is the customer has to pay $70 up front to get the service started, and then $70 is usually added to the first bill. In this scenario, maybe that was the case. Maybe it was just $140 and they just paid it in increments of 2. But either way, they just paid a deposit. You can see that right here where it says deposit applied. Okay. Now, where you see current charges, those current charges incorporate probably the $140. We can confirm that on the next bill or the next page. But the reason it's $316 is because that's the amount of their first bill plus the $140 deposit. We notice that it says 140 CR, which stands for credit. So they've added it to the line item, but then they've deducted it from the total balance, which leaves them a first bill of $176.73. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Now, one thing to factor in, that's pretty high for bill number 1. Because usually the very first bill is not a full month. It's usually a partial bill. So it could be a week. It could be 2 weeks, right? It could be 30 days, but not usually. So if we look at the usage chart, we can see that there's only one bar. Customer moved in June. So a good line for you guys to use when you happen to run into somebody that moves in June, July, or August, or in December, January, or February is, unfortunately, you moved in when the electric prices are the highest all year round. So that means you've locked in and you're going to get a summertime rate for the rest of the year. Or that means you've locked in February when electric is the most expensive, and now you're going to get a high rate for the rest of your contract. So a few summers ago, we experienced the hottest summer in Texas in like 5 decades. So we would use that line because people were signing up at 18, 19, 20 cent energy charges. We'd use that line to get them to understand the sense of urgency. You signed up when the price of electric was the most expensive it's ever been. Just because it's no longer the hottest summer of the year or the coldest winter of the year doesn't mean you still can't use those lines. So make sure if you guys are running into people during December, January, and February, use those lines. So again, one bar indicates they just moved in. They either just switched or they just moved in. But more often than not, they just moved in. If you saw more bars, you would see, obviously, if they lived here for another 3 or 4 months, you'd see more bars. Keep in mind, not every bill will do this. So TXU does it, Tri-Eagle does it, Ambit does it because they're all owned by Vistra. So this bill looks familiar because a couple days ago we covered Tri-Eagle. Tri-Eagle, TXU, and Ambit. They're all basically the same. Any questions about the first page of the bill? Okay, real quick before we move on. When you identify that the customer just moved in, what is a good icebreaker? So customer gives you the bill and you just saw one bar, they just moved in. What can you say?
Hey, where are you from, man?
Perfect. So the way this works.
Boo!
So the easiest.
Get the ball. Throw the donuts.
Donuts is wild.
You should have thrown the donuts.
Yo, that was great.
No.
He worked against you, man. He threw the ball.
So the easiest icebreaker for you guys when you've identified that they just moved in by looking at the usage chart is to simply ask them if they're new or to ask them where they're from. Alexis, where are you from again? Massachusetts?
Yeah.
So if,
No.
let's say, Alexis asks me the question, oh, did you just move in? Where are you from? And I happen to say Boston. Well, now she has instant common ground. She can build rapport, and that deal will likely be a lot easier. You guys miss out on easy opportunities to relate and establish common ground by not picking up on instant icebreaker opportunities. And that would be a good example, probably the best example of one. So remember, anytime you see, I don't know why it does that.
Hilarious.
It's like a
It
game.
was doing that earlier for some reason.
Yeah. Anytime you see a usage chart that's under 1 year, all the way up to like 10, 11 months, you can bring up, oh, did you guys move in 8 months ago, 11 months ago? Are you new to Texas? Where are you from? If you guys can get to the where are you from or are you new in the very beginning, then that'll help you determine is your customer experienced or inexperienced? And it's a good opportunity, again, to build rapport. So here's the back of it. It's going to be blurry. Wow, it's a lot blurrier than I thought.
Texas Energy Simple Start.
Well, it won't be as blurry on your end, but it definitely is blurry up here. So just so we can all kind of see, this one here says deposit due, $140.
It is kind of blurry, but you can still kind of make it out of the 22 cents.
Yeah. The expiration date, I think, is 9/2026.
Yeah, 9/30/2026.
Yep. The energy charge is 14.1. When you're looking at these bills, you want to find three things. Remember, you want to find what is the energy charge, you want to find when does it expire, and you want to find what is the plan. Is it a specialty plan? So again, the way you can determine if it's a specialty plan or not is you've got to find the plan name. So the plan name we've got here is the Simple Start 15. Okay? Do you see the word free anywhere in the plan?
No.
No. Do you see free nights or the word season or the word summer? Any kind of indication by looking at this plan that they get something for free or they get some kind of different pricing if they use a certain amount during a certain time of year? No, right? Normally, when we're looking for specialty programs, we're able to determine it's a specialty program because it says something like free night. That's a specialty program. Or free weekends. Or live your free. These are all specialty programs. If you see something that says seasons pass or season pass, or if you see summer pass or summer break, those are all examples of specialty programs. So if you don't see those words, then you can assume it's not a specialty program and you can remove the plan from the list of potential problems. Okay, so again, what you're trying to do is determine what is my rate, when does it expire, and what kind of plan am I on. If they're not on a specialty plan, remove the plan from the list. You're no longer going to consider the plan as one of the potential problems. Does that make sense? So that means you're left with one of two options. You're either going to sell on price or you're going to sell on expiration, right? Okay, so the only time you want to pitch on expiration is, number one, if it's already expired. Is this expired?
Of course not.
No.
No. Number two, if the expiration date is coming up, I would say anywhere in the next 4 to 6 months. It's not coming up, it's a year away. So what you have left is the price that they're paying per kilowatt. Okay, so by process of elimination, plan is not an option because it's not a specialty plan. The expiration isn't an option because it expires in a year. So all that's left is the energy charge. So what is the energy charge? 14 cents. So what's our energy charge? 12 cents. Now, this customer also has a base charge. It's hard to see, but it's up there, $10. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're building out the value a little bit. So let me just kind of build that out over here. So by process of elimination, we've determined that they're going to save 2 cents per kilowatt because we're going to go on price, not plan, not expiration. Okay? They're also going to save $10 per month because we have no base charge and they have a base charge. So $10 a month is what, $120 a year, but we're not going to do the annual yet. So we got 2 cents a month per kilowatt per month, $10 per month, and then we've also got the deposit. So they get their deposit back, right? The reason they get that deposit back is because when a customer switches, no matter whether they're in the contract brand, they're new to the contract or they're in the middle of the contract, whenever a customer leaves their company, they get the deposit back. Now, if they owe that company money, then the deposit will be taken to true up that final bill. But nonetheless, they still get the deposit back. So that's a plus $140. They also get $150 by switching to Reliant. So they get the bill credit, which goes on bill number 2. So far, we're at $300 in value right here. Okay? Now, if we wanted to do this by month, then we could do the math on the 2 cents per kilowatt, and we can figure it out just on this one bill. This bill was good for 23 days. They used 500 kilowatts. So let's just say it's 500. Okay? What's 500 kilowatts times 1 penny?
$10. Oh wait, no, that's times 1,000. $5.
So it's $5, but it's 2 pennies, so it's $10.
Yep.
So based on their usage, their rate versus our rate, it's about a $10 difference. So we have $10 a month for a base charge. This 2 cents is $10 a month. Okay, so they save about $20 a month in price and fees, and they get their deposit back, and they get the $150 bill credit. Now that's a lot of information. I'm not sure breaking all of this information down is really going to be the way you close this deal because there's not enough leverage. Whenever their usage is low and their bill is low and you're quoting $5 difference, $10 difference, it's not really enough. So from here, you have 2 different options. You can annualize it. Okay, so let's say they keep this usage about the same. $10 a month is $120 a year. Plus the base charge. So they've got another 120. So now they're at 240 plus their deposit. So now they're at 380 plus they're going to get their 150 from us. So 380 plus 150, 480, 520, 530. So now they're going to get 500 plus in value for the whole year, right? Now, if we were to multiply whatever we need to multiply to extend that out for the 3-year contract, it goes up. But let's be realistic here. Most of you are not going to do that, and most of you will not be able to do that accurately without accidentally misleading the customer into false savings that aren't accurate, right? Because there's too many variables at play. So let me recap. You can break the math down, and you can do it by month. You can break the math down, and you can do it by year. Or you can just keep it as simple as humanly possible. So here's what I mean by that. Now that you know all the numbers, you see the value in the customer potentially switching to us versus keeping their TXU. Keep it simple. And I've posted this hook as well. So here's the way that I would do it. You don't need specifics. This is referencing back to the meeting 2 days ago. 2 days ago, I would use words like higher, lower, longer, shorter. When I played my video for you guys and then I broke that video down, we were less than that Ambit bill. Her plan was expired, but again, this is the same idea. We are lower and we're good for longer. So we're lower for longer, right? I asked you guys a couple days ago if anybody knows who Alex Hormozi is. If you don't, you should follow him. You should look into him and watch some of his videos. His entire business model is teaching entrepreneurs at an elementary level, which is ironic because that's how I like to sell. He teaches people with pictures and big words, not like confusing words, but like big letters and big print. And he puts pictures in his books. And the books are big. And you'd think it's almost insulting, but the way that he does it is he teaches people that 2 + 2 = 4. He doesn't get into 2x fucking cubed minus y. He doesn't do any of that. But he gets to the same end result by keeping it as simple as humanly possible. Okay, and that's how I teach, that's how I train, and that's how I sell. So you now understand the complicated version. You understand the math, the logic. I hope you see why a customer would switch from TXU to Reliant if they have this plan. Okay, do we all agree? Yeah. So now you have to dumb it down. Dumb it down so the customer, the average customer who doesn't care, who you interrupted, who probably isn't paying attention, and who is not going to give you the attention that you need to explain the complicated version, come up with an elementary version to explain this. So here would be that elementary version. Customer gives you the bill, you notice that they just moved in, and you say, hey, are you new here? Where are you from? Blah, 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 build a little bit of rapport. Okay, let me take a look at the bill. Oh my gosh, I see you paid a deposit. Did you pay a deposit? That's obvious, it's on the bill, right? You don't need to say, oh, well, you won't have a deposit with us. That's too early, you don't need to get into that. But you're gonna bring up the deposit, so you may as well mention it early on. You paid a deposit to switch to these guys? Yeah, I had to pay $140. Oh, okay, well, let me take a look at your rate. That's why we're out here anyway. Well, it's a good thing we got here when we did, because you are paying a little too much. And over the next year, you're gonna overpay. This is exactly why people like me come around. So what I'll do is I'll redo it, but this time I'll lower the rate down, and it'll actually be lower for longer. Because your plan will expire in a year, and instead of that happening, it's just good for up to 3 years, so you don't have to keep doing this over and over again. And by the way, you'll get your deposit back, and you probably won't have one with us. And the good news is I caught you within your trial period. TXU gives you 60 days, so you won't even have an exit fee with TXU.
Really?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? They say, yeah, sounds great. Cool, get the ID. Or cool, what's the address? Or cool, give me your zip code. All I did was I took what we spent 10 minutes breaking down the math and annualizing it and coming up with numbers and doing calculations that I think you're all capable of doing, but I'm not sure you're capable of doing in real time and it be accurate. Where you're not accidentally misleading people into, again, savings that aren't real, that aren't true. So forget about all the complicated shit. How would you explain this plan to a 7th grader? That should be your question. How would you explain this to your son or your daughter if they're under 16, if you have one, and they're above 5? How would you explain this to someone that doesn't care, that doesn't understand how the electric market works? Your explanation of all the specialty programs, summer pass, season pass, the tiered plans, your explanation of deregulation, if you have to get into it, why it's a thing, how it works. These should be the most simple explanations that you can possibly think of. Because again, you're not explaining it to me, who has the experience to understand it. You're not explaining it to each other. I would argue a new guy, after one orientation class, knows more about the industry than most customers do. So you're not even explaining it to a peer that's sitting next to you in class. You're explaining it to a customer that was watching a movie when you knocked on their door, and they're nice enough to give you the time of day to show you the bill. And now you're explaining savings for the next 3 years if they sign this contract, yada, yada, yada. It's too much information. So when you don't have the leverage you need to say, oh my God, you're paying way too much, you're paying double, I'm gonna lower it, that's $100 a month. That's not your everyday situation. If you can say it and it's accurate, say it. But this case does not allow that. So you have to be more creative, and you've got to keep it more simple when you don't have the easy leverage that you would if this customer was expired or paying 20 cents. So again, in this scenario, I'm closing on ours is lower for longer. They paid a deposit, so they'll get it back. And we've got the trial period. They're within a 60-day trial period. Now, if you didn't know that, now you know. TXU gives customers a 60-day trial period, so they can switch for free with no exit fee. Remember, TXU, Tri-Eagle, and Ambit are all owned by the same company. So all three of them give their customers a 60-day trial period. So you want to keep that in mind, because you can throw that in as an added bonus. And by the way, I caught you at a perfect time. You're within your 60 days, completely free to do this. Because a customer that says, can you come back next month? Nope. You'll be locked into a contract that you can't get out of. That's what I say. Yeah, I can come back in a month, but by then you got to pay an exit fee. If you change your mind in the middle of winter and you're like, oh my God, I should have switched. Now you got to pay $200-300 just to get out of it. So I'm here now because I found you while you're in your trial period. So again, that trial period is that sense of urgency. Because guess what? If they're outside of their trial period and they have an exit fee, their deposit eats the exit fee. So now they won't get that back. So if they want the deposit back, they got to do it within the trial period, right? So they get their 140, they get our 150, they get no deposit, hopefully. They get their deposit back, they get a cheaper price. So it's a win-win, but you'll talk your customer out of doing it if it's too complicated. So the last thing I want to cover is the EFL. Every customer that signs up for any company will always get an EFL mailed or emailed to them. So this is the EFL, the electricity fax label that is associated with the plan that we just went over. And I'll update it on Slack. I posted tiered. It is not tiered. And we're able to confirm that this isn't tiered by looking at the EFL. Yep. So here's where it breaks down their base charge. Here's where it breaks down their energy charge. Here's where it tells you their term. So annoying. And here's where it tells you their exit fee. So if you're ever unsure of how long is this program good for, is it tiered? If it's free nights, when does the free night period begin? If it's Live Your Free, which is a complicated program, I posted a hook about that one as well. But if it's a program that you're unfamiliar with, this is the thing you can use to find everything that you need. This will give you your contract details. It'll tell you your exit fee. It'll get into all of it. The only thing EFLs don't typically include are like account credits or bill credits. Bill credits, rather. Like our 150 credit is not on our EFL, but it can be found on the tablet when you're looking at the see more information. But all the things that you need can be found right here. Now, I'm not asking customers for their EFL, but this is for your reference. If the customer says, my plan isn't tiered, but you're confident that it is, you can ask for the EFL and boom, you can prove it to them. Because remember, going back to yesterday, what you're saying, they're just words, right? You're a salesperson. You're supposed to be smooth. You're supposed to talk in a way where customers maybe want this plan, but are still unsure. That's the point, right? You're supposed to be good at your job. Right? But the problem is if you're too good, then they won't buy in, they won't believe it. So the way I combat that is I prove it. I'm always showing them their bill. I'm pointing at their price. If I need to prove their exit fee, that I didn't just make it up. Customer may say, oh, I'm in a contract, I got an exit fee. Well, your exit fee is only $150. We'll reimburse up to $150. Well, how do you know it's $150? Where do you see that on my bill? Well, I don't see it on your bill. I'm just experienced. I know what I'm looking for. You're on a 12-month program. That's all accurate information. But how do I prove that? Well, this would be how I would prove that. So in a lot of cases, you guys may have the knowledge, but you're looking for a way to back it up. Back it up by providing visuals. Back it up by showing them their bill, and you can back it up by showing them their EFL if needed. Okay, so again, I'm going to post this one, but to recap, this would be considered a high rate or an overcharged hook. So we've got our specialty program hook, we've got our free night hook, our season pass hook. We've got all different kinds of hooks, but they all follow the same structure. So this one would be labeled overcharged hook or high price hook. And the way I pitch it is I keep it simple. You're paying too much. We're going to lower it. Yours is too short. We're going to extend it, yada, yada. And we've got all the leverage because they get their deposit back, they're within their trial period, and they get their $150 from switching. This is a deal some people would lose because you can't show $100 a month in savings. You don't need that every time. So you got to be able to think outside the box and keep it simple so you don't overdo it and lose the deal. Before we wrap up, any questions about this plan? You had your hand up.